Good evening, Kiffy. It's so good to see you today. How's it been? How's your Monday?
Very hot, very exhausting, but I'm here. I'm here.
Very hot. And so I remember when I was getting to know you, you grew up in Buffalo, right? Like,
Mhm.
you know, I in my head at least, I don't think I've ever been to Buffalo, but I'm picturing like greenery and like lakes or pools or like options for summer days, maybe like an ice cream truck. Um, what was a hot day like when you were growing up versus what you dealt with today?
Hot days growing up was usually lots of barbecues. Family always come over. They was always trying to stay busy when it was hot. So they'd have like the trampoline up, the pool, they line up the RVs, and we'd make these things called flips. It's a thing from down south. They brought it over, and it's you put like fruit punch in a solo cup and then you let it freeze in the freezer and you eat it with a spoon, so you scrape off the top, and that would be like our summers. Just
I
eating
love.
flips and drinking huggies.
Wait, what's a huggy?
You don't know huggies? Oh,
No,
Huggies is like these little barrel juices. It's probably about that big, about
I
that
know what those
wide.
are. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, what a throwback. Okay, so did you get to have any of those things today?
No,
No,
no.
you had to grown up, you had to adult, right? And fix
It's been water and work.
water and work. The two W's. The one of them is good. The other one, it sounds like it was rough
Yeah.
for it today. It is funny. Like I was in the South for the last few years, and this is my first proper New York City summer in a minute. And I feel like I'm in a like 90s movie about like the rough. Like I feel like people are about to, break a fire hydrant. Like the accents have gotten thicker in the heat. Like people are
Yeah.
really frustrated, and I get it. Like I don't blame them. It's just I'm like, is this real? Like, is this really happening? Are we all so ready? And we are, and we are. So maybe
Yeah.
it's good that we've, kind of settled into the evening hours. It's a little bit cooler now as we have this conversation. I'm really excited that we get to be here on this hot, sunny, well, formerly sunny and stormy Monday. So if anyone does not know you yet, this is Kiffy, cartoonist and dreamer, and we get to unpack that today a little bit with you. So thank you for being here.
Of course, of course. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We'll start, I think, at the beginning. So tell us a little bit more about that growing up season in Buffalo, wherever else you were, and kind of where the origins of your kind of creativity began, how you got to here.
Well, a lot of growing up, usually for Buffalo, is we known for our winters and stuff like that. So it was a lot of being in the house, unless it was hot. But the creativity aspect, I guess, being inside a lot. Me, I was a little nerd kid. I would stay in the house and play games and watch cartoons. So that was a big factor into my art career and my interest in art and just watching cartoons, playing games, and kind of just delving into like that world of creative like imagination really early. Kind of started off.
Yeah. Was there a favorite cartoon, a favorite game? I'm a big favorites person. I'll probably do it a few more
Oh,
times as we talk.
favorites always hurt me because I feel like there's so many favorites and they always fighting with each other, and it's like, ooh, when I can't
I
make
feel
one
you.
my favorite,
Okay,
it
so
hurt.
reframe, like not necessarily favorite. We don't have to let all the other ones down, but are there a few that come to mind right now?
Courage the Cowardly Dog, Ed, and Eddie, Codename Kids Next Door. What? Ooh, I know there was one that was like my favorite. There was one called Crashbox that came on HBO Family. That one was really good, but it's kind of underrated. But Crashbox was really cool and like just out there and different.
Yeah, so I would have maybe assumed that it was just like the drawing of them that stood out to you because of, how we know each other in this context. But it sounds like as you're describing Wild and Out There, like maybe the narratives drew you into, like what about these shows was so compelling with your childhood self?
I guess back then, like again, being a little nerdy kid, like trying to fit in was like the main purpose. But I was always like in conflict of like being my own self and then trying to fit in. And cartoons, especially seeing it back then, the different styles between all the cartoons. I think it was kind of one of those cool things to see. Like it's okay to be different. It's okay to be wild. You're still cool. Like Ed and Eddie and stuff like that. And Courage the Cowardly Dog has such different styles compared to everything on Disney Channel, Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon. Everything was different. And you just see those styles and like especially doing art as a kid, you look at it and be like, oh, my art's not like so and so like comic book artists. And it's like, well, that's fine. you're growing, and it's cool to have your own style and grow with that. So like it was just that like exoticness and difference between all of them that kind of drew me into it. Like it was okay to have something that don't look like, you know, what
I
comparing it to
love
other things.
that. No, I think that's so beautiful to have that encouragement early on to be different or just be you, right? Like we don't need a carbon copy or a next best version of the thing that already exists when you can be yourself.
Exactly.
So when you were in this season of life, you were watching these shows, getting inspired by them. Were you like drawing while you watched? Did you pull away and draw later? Were you drawing in math class? Like, how did this kind of show up?
It was definitely a lot of drawing in class. It was a lot of drawing in class. That was the only time. I always love to draw and stuff when like I'm supposed to be paying attention to something else, so like at work or something. It's always fun to draw because it's that like excitement, like, oh, I'm doing this, and no, I'm not supposed to be.
Yeah.
um, in school, there was really that big aspect to it too. But I gotta shout out a big thank you to one of my teachers. It was my peg teacher. He said, what was it? He said he always let us draw in class because he was told that that makes you intake things better.
Mm, I love that. I mean, yeah, I think that that could work for a lot of kids.
Yeah, yeah, it's very good information.
Yeah, so you had this one teacher who was encouraging and you were drawing in these classes. Were you, I look at some of your work now and I'm like, there's a whole world happening there, right? Was it did a storyline kind of continue from work to work, or what kind of stuff were you drawing on the paper?
It was usually just like I feel like it's usually kind of just like a big like storm inside the head or like a stew. And then eventually a little character might just pop up to the front and be like, okay, I'm going to be the one on paper today. And then that'll just be it. And then it'll be something completely different the next day. So like usually a lot of my art, like I don't recreate things a lot. That's not what I like doing. I like making brand new things. So it's really hard for me to stick on one project after I'm done with it because I always want to move on to the next and just keep bringing what's in my head out.
Yes, it needs a place to get stored, right? So that you don't have to
Yeah.
worry about losing it. So I get that. That resonates. And so you're going through life, you get to like say high school. When in this journey are you realizing like, oh, this is not just a thing I'm doing in class to hear better, like the teacher's theory, right? When does it start becoming a real maybe identity for you?
Wow. I don't think it was in high school that it hit me. I think it was a little bit maybe it was in college. I think it was, or maybe senior year probably. I knew I had to do something, and I was like, well, I don't want to, get a normal job. And the idea was military at first, but my parents talked me out of it. So I think I realized like I had to commit to something, and I like doing art. And I had a YouTube channel at the same time, so it was either between those two. And in the YouTube channel, I just got bored of doing it, and I was like, okay, let's do art.
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting that there was that, really defined fork in the road, it seems like, and it could have gone either way. What was the YouTube channel? I have to ask,
Oof.
platform.
Uh, Frobonzo, Frobonzo. It's still up. It's still up, and I take that's my little baby. That was my little channel. It is cringe. It is absolute cringe. This is like high school me.
We
Oh,
love a
it's so
cringe YouTube.
cringe.
Who didn't have a cringe YouTube, right?
Exactly, exactly.
What was the content focus? Were you talking? Was it animations? What was going on?
It was mostly gaming channel.
Okay.
Yeah,
Very cool. A classic YouTube subgenre or theme.
yeah.
So you had that fork in the road. You said, okay, let's give art a go. You decided to go to community college at that point, right after high school. Was
Mhm.
it immediately after high school that you went into
I
that?
believe it was. Yeah.
And what was that experience like? And that's like a loaded question, right? Because I know we talked a little bit
Ooh.
before.
College was a mess. I was in for like, I think it was either a semester or 2 semesters. And I went for animation at Niagara County Community College. Absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. We could talk about this now. It was literally just me smoking pot. That was literally it. It was just a lot of weed and it was just bad. It was such an awful time. And I was just like, I hate this. I hate this so much.
I
Literally, that was the last time I said, I'm done. Now I'm, My addiction is my art now.
Awesome. It sounds like you had a really important epiphany, right?
Yeah.
That environment wasn't the one that was, most conducive to you learning what you wanted to learn. Is that,
Yeah.
is that like the PC
Yeah.
way to kind of?
They really tried to break it down. Like they didn't want us to, I guess everything that we knew from art beforehand, they wanted us to forget it and just learn it by the book and have this really like structured form of art. And I'm just like, that's, it's not really that cool.
Yeah, I think it's such a gift to have to go into it already with an understanding of your style and what you want to do. And so to be kind of asked to go what feels like maybe backwards would be really frustrating to your creativity or where you feel like you are and want to be moving towards. But I'm thinking of, like you mentioned, your parents kind of talked you out of going into the military, right? What happened
Yeah.
when you were like, I don't want to do college anymore? Was that hard? Did you feel like you were a man on an island, like dealing with that yourself? Or did everyone come around you and agree that it was crazy? Like that seems like it could have been a hard moment.
Surprisingly, it wasn't. I have surprisingly really supportive parents, and when I told them I didn't want to go to school anymore, they was like, "At least you tried. That's all we wanted." But my mom really hammered down. She was like, "If you're not going to school, you better be doing something." So it was just one of those things where it was like, as long as I'm not in school, I need to be doing something that's like, productive and getting work done. And, you know, if I'm not taking the easy route, work hard on the hard route.
I love that. So she had a really practical mindset of like, big picture goal, just that you're doing something. It doesn't have
Yeah, exactly.
that's so helpful, it sounds like. So you had their blessing to kind of go forth, do your thing. So you left community college, and how did you keep developing your practice from there? And like, was this a long time ago or was this like yesterday?
This was like 2018. I believe
Okay.
this was 2018 when I dropped out. Um, and then from there, it was just a lot of like, I guess doing art on my own and just kind of like building my little portfolio and doing a lot of like small commissions and stuff, and then kind of just going with the flow. It was just a lot of just trying to figure things out and just letting time, take its course.
Oh my gosh, so cool. And so it sounds like it was a pretty organic thing for you. Was there a lot of or any, structure to, I'm gonna make stuff from 9 to 3 each day? Like how did you kind of get in your zone or keep yourself, did you have to keep yourself accountable at all? Like and maybe you didn't.
Honestly, I never really looked at like art like a job like that. It was usually just whenever I had that, like I knew I wanted to do it enough to keep building at it, but it was never like, okay, I got to do it now. Because every time I did do that, I would end up losing. I would lose motivation. So I
Yeah.
always thought of art like kind of like a relationship. It's like y'all work together. You can't force the other person to do anything. It's a working together thing. It's a team bond effort. So when
Yeah.
art's like, I'm not in the mood to be creative right now, it's like, okay, let's go figure something else out to do right
I
now. Let's
love that. I think that's so important, right? And so wise to be like, okay, I'm not the dictator of the pace, right? Actually, genuine work takes genuine flow, maybe. Like,
yeah.
but that's so cool. And so lovely. I don't think that would always be easy for me. That would be, I'd be like, I really want to do it right now. Like this has to happen. But that's why I'm not the artist. But so in that process of like letting the art kind of lead and feeling out when the right time was, um would you say that was when your style like formed, or your style already fully existed in high school? And really this is just my way to segue to talking about your style.
Um, it's always been kind of just like a slow process. I think the style has always been there, but as I moved on and started to play more with digital art, because digital art didn't really come in until a little bit after high school, or maybe like senior years. So digital art came in late, but that was where the style really got hammered down because beforehand I was doing a lot of pen and ink. And being able to add color and shading and all of that, being able to use the different tools that digital had, that's when the style really started to take form and have like its own little character to it.
Wow. So the digital stuff is mind blowing to me because I think so, like conceptually and just technologically, it seems very much like there could be a steep learning curve. How did you decide that you wanted to pick that up? And then how did you go forth with actually learning how to use the tools?
I guess for picking it up, there really was no choice. I mean, like growing up, like we didn't have a lot, so it was like when I did get to digital, it was kind of a blessing because you had all the colors. You didn't have to worry about buying paints or canvases. It was just like everything you need is on this device. So learning it was kind of like one of those things where, it's a small price to pay. And then I guess the process was that it was I was doing a lot of or practicing a lot of animations on what was it, Flash, and I did a lot of my digital drawings there early, and then I ended up moving to Photoshop, and then nowadays I use Procreate.
Oh my gosh, all the cool buzzy tools. Is there a favorite in there, or do they enable you to do different things? Like, does the work dictate which one you're using? Like, how does that go?
The work definitely varies from it. Photoshop's really like good for like technical things, and like it there's more, I guess, maneuverability with Photoshop, but my favorite hands down is Procreate. I love Flash dearly. Flash was, the first one that I practiced with and was doing art on, but it was really limited. Procreate, it's on the tablet. It's you know, it has everything. It has everything. It's not as powerful as Photoshop, but there is a lot you can do in Procreate, and it's so easy to learn and pick up.
No way. I feel like maybe YouTube would come in handy for that too, right? So you're being
Oh
a
yeah.
content creator, like you now I know where to go for the videos, like how to use these things. So that's so cool. And I think your Instagram profile said you're a plunderer of office supplies. Does that
Oh,
do with your art, or is that a totally different thing?
that's what art. I was working at Target for a point, and I think I lost my job because I asked them. They had this paper that they would lay out on shelves, and it was this really nice paper. It was almost like a plastic, like it had like a waka, 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 waka sound to it when you like shake it a bit. Really high quality paper. Like growing up, I loved like different papers and
Like good
pens and
paper.
markers. Yeah, and I was putting in my 2 week notice, uh, just for like, I didn't want to work there anymore.
Right.
And I told them, I went up to my manager. I was like, hey, on some real, I will pull back my 2 week notice if you let me get some of that paper. And I was 100% serious about that. And I think that was the point where they realized like we don't want this guy. I don't know. They didn't want to. They never used it though. They would lay it out and then they would just throw it out. I'm like, dude, I'll
Like,
take it.
great. This is great paper. Oh
It
my
is really good paper.
So how does that, because you've been talking about all this digital stuff, why was the paper so important?
Honestly, it was such high quality paper, and it was just going in the garbage, and it's just so smooth to draw on. Like I
I
worked in the back rooms, the storage room, so like I would just draw on cardboard boxes. But when I seen that paper, I was like, I need some of this in my life. Can I please have it?
Yeah, so you're just an appreciator of good office supplies, good paper. You can't let them go to waste. That's
No,
very
of course,
valiant
yeah,
effort to save the paper. And maybe Target needs a letter to someone higher up. Like there's a whole artist community that could
yeah,
use paper. Uh,
yeah.
I feel like
Recycling is
that's a
key.
I feel like that's a cool opportunity. Maybe there has to be a group of like there's this term craftivism or like people use craft as a form of activism as like a movement like let people know like free the paper, let the paper.
That would be the start of it. They didn't even want to talking about unions there. So, that would be the start of it.
And
It was trying to hold us
now they're
down.
gonna see something like that and they're gonna think it was the two of us. And I don't know. I don't go near paper. I don't like how it feels in my hands. The Target, like
It wasn't us.
it
It
wasn't
wasn't us.
us.
We're
We got
good.
the idea out there. We're good. No, I gotta find a Target now and go see what this paper is that you speak so highly of. But I was curious, as you were talking about the digital stuff, does it start from inception in the digital, or do you sketch on paper first? Like, does the idea come and you run with it? How does it all kind of fit together?
uh, Sometimes it varies. I usually carry around like this little book, and I do like lots of drawings in there. And if I end up like sketching out something in there that I really like, I'll bring it to digital. But for the most part, a lot of the stuff is created in digital, sketched there, and then lined, colored, everything done in uh what is it, digital,
Oh,
unless it's like paintings is usually done like just straight sketch on the canvas, and then sometimes I might bring the sketch from the canvas on the digital just to figure out colors for it so I can speed up the process without having to like experiment with colors on a painting.
Oh my gosh, so cool to have that flexibility to use different mediums and tools. And another part of your kind of story or your artistry, it said on, I think, your Instagram, you're an artist for Shamoon.
Yeah, there's a clothing brand that I'm working with called Shamoon. Their Instagram is I told you aliens were real. If you don't mind the plug, if you know.
Plugs are great.
Yeah, it's a clothing brand I started working with a good friend of mine. And yeah, it's up and coming, you know, baby steps, but you know, within the next coming month we'll be making some big moves.
So exciting. So a lot of different touch points for your art. I can imagine that would be like energizing and keeps it from getting stale for you ever, right? There's always a different
Yeah,
avenue.
there's always something to do.
Yes. And a really important and like sweet theme I thought that you shared with me about your work when I was getting to know you was that inner child importance. Can you speak more to what that's about and why that matters to you?
So a lot of the art has that aspect of just like I don't know, just creative things that children can come up with. Like, you know, I feel like especially if you have a conversation with a kid, they'll like come up with these really like imaginative things. And even as kids, like I remember for me, like I could just come up with these really crazy like characters or stories right off the fly, like it was natural. You
Yeah.
know, it's just as natural as going to drink a cup of water. And I feel like as adults, they take that away from us. You know, they want us to be more like, oh, professional and, you know, snazzy and such, you know. But I feel like with my art, I'm able to bring that inner child out, you know. And it's actually really cool. And I feel like a lot more people, you know, should really, you know, go for that because I feel like now, you know, or I guess all throughout history, people love that inner child. People want to be that, you know, but they all follow the same pattern of getting rid of that. And, you know, that's why movies and music is so popular because it's this medium that's so cool and creative and imaginative. But the majority of people, you know, oh, I can't do that because so and so. No, that's just because you don't let your inner child make cool things, you know?
Yes. I love that perspective. And I think, we'll get into your work very shortly, but it's such an affirmation that our inner child is so expansive too, right? It's not just like bringing out the Hasbro toys and the Fisher Price, like telephone, right? Like it's just, I think it letting yourself be like whatever you may be, right? Whether it is cool or could freak someone out or whatever, like you just kind of are filterless, maybe
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
innocent way, which is really fun. And so I'm a big fan. So I'll pull up your works and we can see what that means, like in context. So I tried to choose a pretty big variety of your stuff. This seems like maybe there's some Photoshop involved, but that's my very naive eye. Tell me.
Yeah. That one was done in Flash. That is when I was playing around a lot with Flash, and it's a mixture of Flash and Photoshop. The cartoon part is done in Flash, and then the background's done in Photoshop. That one was a really weird piece. That one, looking at it now, that one is such a really weird piece, but I like it. I have no clue what was going through my head when I made that.
I'm trying to remember the caption on the Instagram. It was like platypus and baby or something. There's like
I won't lie to you, when I make the little things, I, I just type whatever I'm thinking at that point. Half of it doesn't make sense, but I'm like, you know what? This is how I'm feeling in the moment. Let's
it's
go
so
for it.
cool. Like I think that's the definition of cool. Like everyone else thinks there's so much behind it, right? They're like trying to find the inner thing, and you're like, it's just the words in my brain, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But it's so fun. Like I think it's so interesting. You drew. Do you remember anything about where you were in life, like when this came together?
No clue. No clue. I have no clue.
Oh my gosh.
I
And
gotta take a
things are
sec. I'm like,
my sister, one of her favorite phrases, like that's a fever dream, right? Like it's
yes, very fever dreamish. Very fever dreamish.
um, but I think it's still a valid point to kind of break down some different things that are going on. So it looks like the back is like a photo that you brought in, right? And the front is an illustration. Like, are these one-off characters? Have they appeared in other works that you've done?
Ooh.
Like, what is that like for you?
Most of the characters I ever draw, they usually don't ever get like recycled. They usually are like that's it, you know? Because like feel like recreating them kind of takes away from that appeal of like, like this is it's almost like taking a photo of a stranger. You don't want to keep taking that same numerous photos over and over. It's like you caught these people here at this point in their life, and then it's like boom, there's that. Time to
Yeah.
move on to the next photo. So I feel like, yeah, these characters, no clue, but I'm just looking back at it like, wow, it's always fun to look back. It's like my brain is such an interesting creature.
Yes, that is to be celebrated. So, you know, I hear you when you say like the characters don't carry over to the next work, for example. But if someone was in like Wild Goose Gallery or, whatever gallery you're in the future, maybe in the MoMA, right? Who knows? How would they know? Is there a way that they could know that's a work by Kiffy?
um, oh, by the look, honestly,
Or
no.
maybe
It
not.
always
I don't
switch
know.
up. It always switch up. I think there's the soul behind it, like this like really weird, like it usually don't make sense. And the description will be really bad. Like it'll be something dumb. There's this saying that I heard. It was like 99% of the things I say, like I have no clue what I'm saying. So if the description under the painting is just gibberish, it's 100% mine.
I love that. I think that's very cool though. And I love that you explain it as, the soul of the work is how you know that it's mine. Like that is so next level, right? It's not like a designer brand that uses a label, right? It's a whole feeling, right? It's for those really in the know people. And so that's awesome. So I just like
Mm.
love these. I'm like a very girly person. Like I never, but these works are so cool to me. And so out of one's comfort zone, but also kind of inviting. Like I can't wait to hear more about this.
This one is really cool. This one is an NFT that I created, a part of the Grand Garcio collection. This one was really cool. I made this one. Actually, I was in New York City when I made that. It was, oh, I think it was like last year, like around November-ish, I believe. But yeah, no, this one is really cool. I love this one so much. Like, again, I have no clue where the idea initially came from, but like I just had this image in my head and I just had to get it out on like, on digital. And I don't know. I don't know. It was just so cool. And like trying to decipher like what's going on there is always so fun looking at that one. And that one's actually a painting too that I did. That was actually the first painting I've ever done. Not this digital version, but the painting version of that is the first painting I've ever done.
No
And
way.
that's at the gallery. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So I feel like this is a cool point then to go into how the first painting came about for you.
So like I was saying, this one was a NFT and I was like, well, actually, my good friend Kevin, aka Marquezi, he covered everything to make that painting. So he pretty much like funded it. And we was like, oh, it'd be really cool if a painting came with like an NFT because it was like the hype of NFTs. It'd be really cool to have like this project come out and then you get a whole painting behind it. So there's physical and digital. And I'm like, I've never painted before. I have no clue what I'm doing. He was like, don't worry about it. I'll cover it. Just figure it out. And then I did it and I had a lot of fun and it turned out really cool. And I was like, what?
Oh
Painting?
my gosh. How do you even get started with that if you don't know how to paint? Like that blows my mind.
No, honestly, I looked at a lot of YouTubers, like artist YouTubers. I remember specifically watching this artist named Ten Hun, and he does like a lot of acrylic paintings. And I'm like, let me figure out how he starts. And luckily, he does like breakdowns on his video showing like the process. So I was really just watching it meticulously, figuring out what brushes he was using, how he was priming the canvas, and little things like that. And if it was not for him, I don't think my painting would exist. So thank you, Ten Hun.
Big credits, yes. And you were speaking about the benefit for the consumer, right? To have that physical version and the digital complement. But I'm curious about for you as the artist, right? Like what has it meant for you now to have that painting practice that balances your digital work? Like, do you feel differently when you're creating in one platform versus the other? Does it do anything for you that you now have both skills? What is that like?
Yeah. Digital is, as much as I love digital and it is very convenient, digital is very artificial. The feeling is fun, but it's so quick and like so like forgiving in terms of like, you can just undo with control Z or like double pressing, the screen. So it's very forgiving, which kind of takes away from it a bit, you know. I feel like with painting, especially after the sketch period when you can't erase anymore, it's very unforgiving, which kind of adds to it. It's kind of like, I think of the process like raising a child almost, and then the finished painting is like this like 18-year-old child who's about to go off into the world on their own.
I love
But
that.
it's like, you know, you want your kid to be like this angel who's, changes the world. And as you're going through, you're like, you're figuring out like, ooh, what colors go here, like things like this. And then you make a mistake. It's like, oops, it's like, oh, my kid had too much McDonald's when they was 4. So here's an
What are we
issue.
gonna do? Yeah.
Yeah. So then you work around it and you figure it out. But like, I love that process of like how unforgiving it is. And just like, you're kind of in the moment and you have to figure it out. And it's kind of like playing chess almost. Like, you have to use your brain to figure out, oh, this works here. I should go in with this style. Ooh, I need to use this amount of water on a brush mixed with this amount of paint to get that nice look. So it's not all, you don't see the strokes in it. And
Yes. Oh, what a
it's,
great analogy.
yeah, it's really being in the process and like hands on. And I like that aspect of it.
I think that's so well said, that hands-on approach. It seems like it takes like a bit of foresight, but also flexibility, right? Because it still can turn out beautiful, even if the thing goes in the wrong spot or there's too much McDonald's at 4 years old. But the
Yeah.
outcome's gonna be different depending on where the wrong spots happen, right? Or what the
And then you get little happy accidents, it's like, oh, what you think is a mistake, but you end up looking back at it and be like, wow, I like that because A, I learned from it, and B, like, it makes this painting what it is. It's not perfect, but that's why I like it so much, because it has its differences and because it's not like, like cookie cutter and perfect. Like, I don't like seeing that. I don't like seeing the perfection. I love seeing like, oh, this, when you see the mistakes in it, or like there was something that you messed up on, you think, oh, I made a mistake. You look at that and other people look at that, especially people who's like trying to learn how to do what you're doing. And then like, oh, this person also makes mistakes. This is a human being who made this. This isn't some like robot that puts everything in the right spot. It was a mistake. I see the mistake. Sometimes they don't, but sometimes they do. And it's like, I can do that too. If that person did that and it looks this good, and I can do it too. So I think having those mistakes are really important and a nice part of the process to just humanize it a bit and make it have that realization that it is realistic, and anybody can do it.
Yes, heck yes. And I think, yes, anybody can do it, but also having that human part means it's like, no, but you specifically did it. Like, this is a Kiffy work, right?
Yeah.
Like, your hands
Yeah.
are in it, and that's really special in its own right. I'm curious, like, we're looking at the digital version right now, but you mentioned those like happy accidents or like things that you discover along the way. Do you remember any of those from your like first painting experience?
Ooh, a lot of sketch lines that were not covered up correctly. That's a little secret. That one's only in this interview. I will never say this outside.
Oh my gosh, I love it. The inside scoop. Wait, what
There,
is-
looking very closely, there was a lot of I could have went over with the extra, thicker layers of paint to cover up some of the sketch lines, but I had no clue what I was doing. But it still turned out, it got that nice raw feel to it. It still looks good, but
Exactly.
it's got a nice raw feel to it.
And it's, maybe it's a testament about the layers, right? There's so many
Yeah.
layers. There's all the layers. So there you go. It's fine. But we keep kind of towing around this like NFT world. You've like word dropped it a little bit. And hopefully I'm not the only one who like loves to throw the jargon in, but has no idea what it means. So if you are able to break it down a little bit, I would feel like I really gained a lot.
Okay, here we go. So big disclaimer, big disclaimer. I am not an NFT professional. This is for everybody out here watching this. I am not the NFT man, okay? All right. I know a little bit, so I'm gonna try to, explain this as best as I can. Here we
all we
go.
ask for.
So it's non-fungible tokens, and pretty much with NFTs, it's like you put digital art out there. Well, it's not always digital art, but for this example, it's digital art, and people can own it. But it's kind of fighting what galleries have been doing for a long time, because I'm pretty sure you've heard stories about artists who collectors might buy it and the artist makes nothing, or stuff like that. This kind of keeps the artist in the loop. The good thing about NFTs is that, let's say a million people purchase, let's say this is this one piece and it gets bought and sold a million times, I'll always get royalties from it. So I'm always in the mix with that piece.
Wow.
So like it kind of keeps the artist in the loop. And then even then, it's one of those things where, because the artist is so directly like in tune with the community and such like that, it's kind of one of those things where, like, if you do well, the people in the community do well. People who own it or people who support your work, they do well as well. So it's like it's kind of one of those like a team effort thing. And the bigger you build your community and like as close as you build it, like it's kind of one of those really genuine things. And a lot of the NFT projects that I've joined in, it's just really nice like communities and stuff. And it's like you get in them and they just really chill. And I don't know, it's really about the art. It really is about the art. So like, I don't know, it just keeps the artists and people who love art involved in the art. And like, if you want to be in the art world, NFT is a good spot to start.
Wow. So thank you for breaking that down. And do you have to be a digital artist to be in the NFT world?
No. There's honestly, you could take a picture of, you could screenshot this meeting right now and post it as an NFT. You can take a picture
Wow.
of your toilet. That's a picture of an NFT. You can, there's so many things you can do. Like NFTs have been lots of things. Photographers are in NFTs, like you can, there's musicians, music, there's so many outlets to it. Like it's not just digital art. There's so many outlets to it.
And are they so if someone do you purchase NFTs?
Yeah, you do purchase them.
So if someone purchases this NFT of your work, um, does it like live in like a online portfolio for them? Do they showcase it anywhere?
Yeah, it's kind of like you have a online portfolio. So any piece that you buy, you are the owner, and it gives you like, all the verifications and stuff saying like this is the owner, you own it. So it's literally just as like, it's like owning like a Fortnite skin on your account or something like that. Like it's yours. You own that, and the only way to get rid of it is if you get rid of it. But a lot of the conversation is always, oh, like, oh, can somebody just screenshot it? I can screenshot the Mona Lisa right now. There's nothing saying I own it. Everybody has a picture of the Mona Lisa somewhere, screenshot it. They don't own it. But when you do, when you actually purchase it and own it, you are the owner. There is verifications and all of that stuff saying that you own it. So like you actually do own the piece.
Wow. And multiple people can own an NFT, the same NFT?
It depends. If you make it a one of one, then usually there's only one that exists, so only one person can own it at a time. But if you could make like an NFT and there's like 1,000 or infinite copies, so that numerous people can own numerous ones, or a bunch of people can own the same one. But it all depends on how many editions you release.
So interesting. And you mentioned, really enjoying being part of these communities. What does that mean?
So pretty much like the communities are ran by like the artist, the person who makes it, and then like a team around them that usually helps them with stuff. And they have like discords up, and like recently NFT NYC was in June, and I got to go to some of those events. There's an artist, Smiles Verse, there's Fuck Render. That's his name. It's not, you know. Um who else was there? There was Fuocious, and these are like really good artists. There's a whole bunch more, but these are like really cool artists who just like, they have these nice little events where you can go meet them and talk to them and stuff like that. And it's just really genuine. It's like meeting like your favorite YouTuber almost, like going to these things and be like, oh my gosh, like, like I've been, I keep up with your work and I like collect your work and I love your stuff so much. And they meet the community and I like shaking hands and stuff like that. And it's really nice. It's really nice.
Oh, that's awesome. And so you at some point, you're sure we didn't really go through that. You moved from Buffalo to New York City, right? Or you're like spending time here now. Has that made a difference for your practice, or how did that kind of happen?
Um, honestly, well, currently right now I'm just kind of like visiting, kind of. But was the question like how has it?
So
I'm
you
sorry.
mentioned, going to NFT week in New York City, right? And now you're in this gallery that we'll get into in a little bit. But I just wondered, as you've talked about community and what it's meant for you, if being in New York City versus being in Buffalo has made any difference or cool connections or had any positive takeaways.
Hands down, hands. Nobody. Listen, I love Buffalo. Buffalo is my home. I was born and raised there. I love Buffalo to bits and pieces. From my perspective, I didn't really go outside in Buffalo. There's a lot going on in Buffalo, but New York, there's so much going on that you kind of just find yourself in the mix. Buffalo is easy to like be away from it. New York, you kind of it comes to you. It finds you. It really does. So like, yeah, the community is so much different, especially being up at the gallery. Like, um, people just coming in and like you actually get to see people who like enjoy your art and you hear all these things. It's like, oh, like for real, like it's kind of surreal because especially like making art, it's like I, I don't know, I make it, but I don't really think people ever see it. And then when people be like, oh, I see it and it's really cool, I'm like, okay, like it's so like crazy because like I don't know. I still remember being a kid just making art and then they get hung up on the fridge. And I was like, people are actually interested in it. And I'm like, what the heck? Like for real?
Yes. Oh, that's just such a satisfying thing, I'm sure, and like mind blowing and amazing and all the things at the same time. So I appreciate you going down that rabbit hole with me. This one felt very different too from the last one. How is this made? What's going on? The also like the animation feels a little bit like Jimmy Neutron. Is I'm getting like a Jimmy Neutron style vibe. I don't know. You tell me.
This one was made in Blender, and then the little tattoos on his face were drawn in Procreate. Honestly, this is like my first, or not my first, but this is like a little test with 3D. 3D is a whole different ball game. I'm ready for it, but there is going to be a lot of practice and trial and error with Blender and 3D art because it is very, very technical.
I'm sure. But it looks so good. Like it's so interesting.
Thank you. That this piece took so long to just figure out how to make. Like it was a lot of practice and going back and forth between YouTube videos and saying like, oh, how do you do this on Blender? How do you do that on Blender? But I think it really did turn out pretty cool, and I was hyped for it. I'm glad I released this one because I was really on the tables. I'm like, hey, this is just a practice, but I like this one. I like this one. This is really a testament to uh playing around with 3D and just like dabbling in different mediums, and it'll be interesting to see where 3D goes from here.
It's so amazing. Like, so even, the surface that the head is floating on, right? Like all of that texture, like didn't exist before you went in there and made it.
Yeah. So pretty much like in Blender, I had to make like a little furry texture, and then I had to set up the lights, and that's the fun thing about Blender. It really is kind of like setting up, like you're building this. You know what I mean? Like bit by bit, and you see it all come together, and then you switch over to the view to like see how everything's looking. It's just really cool. It is really cool. It's almost like working with Legos, just kind of putting everything together and then looking back and seeing how everything's coming together. It's really cool.
Oh my gosh, I can imagine. But I can also imagine how that would take so much time and be like, I feel like I'd go cross-eyed. Like it would just be so much screen time, but so worth it.
Yeah.
It's so cool. Is there anything that you could say about this guy? Like, do you know his story or her story, their story? Like what is this situation?
Oh, honestly, I don't have a story from, but I'm an intermediate level at coming up with things on the fly. I could probably come up with one for
I
him
feel like
right
you
now.
come up with a great one. Yeah. Okay, I want to spitball like a word about him, a blurb. What's the situation?
Here we go. All right. Here we go. Here we go. Let's spice it up. Let's spice it up. This is Josh John. This is Josh John. Currently works at Subway. On his pastime, he likes to dress up in his cat uniform, bedazzled out with the glasses, face tattoos, SoundCloud rapper on the side type thing, living
Living
his
the
life,
dynamic
living his life,
Yes,
living his
love it.
life.
Oh my gosh, I can totally see him serving a $5 footlong, right? But like also then like putting a rapper name on his name tag.
Yeah. Slapping one of his little custom stickers on the Subway packaging. Like, don't tell him that's an extra. That's extra. Slide in my extra cookie with his mixtape
Oh
on the
my
side.
gosh. Yes. Yes. I wonder we'll have to find him at the Subway. Maybe in like Times Square, maybe in the middle of Brooklyn.
Oh yeah. Oh
Maybe
yeah.
I'm very that was amazing. Thank you. Thank you for indulging this platform. So this is another NFT, right? This one?
Yeah, that one was this one was actually for a competition. There was a NFT project that I was trying to like earn, and it was like a draw it in your style competition. So I was like, oh, okay, let me try. Let me go for it. I didn't win, but I thought it turned out really cool. So
You're not really
it was a win anyway.
So how much are those sort of competition things part of your story and your work, or like was that very different than what you would usually do?
Um, it's well, I mean, for my NFT journey, it was actually really big. For the person I said before, I'll use F render so I don't have to, but you get the idea what the first part of the name is. But I uh I joined a competition for him. He was doing like a draw it in your own style competition. It's like a little crystal. And I drew this like head, like this lasagna on it that was in a crystal. And I ended up coming in second place for that competition. And I won 2,500 worth of Ethereum. And that was able to get me into like, I was able to buy my first NFTs with that and mint my own projects and stuff like that. So that was a really big moment for me because I was not ever going to be able to get into like, it's not that hard to get into, but I just didn't have the money to get into it at the time. But winning that competition kind of just like started me off, and I was like, that was really cool. So that was very exciting.
That's amazing. And so it sounds like the competitions are an important way to um almost level up, right? Or just like get your name out there, get in the right other opportunities. Like it opens a lot of doors, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. The communities are like, again, it's about the art a lot of the times. You go into these things and they see like other arts, and even for the people who like didn't win, you still go in there and people are like, oh, you got really cool art. Like, is there somewhere I can follow you at? And then, they look for your project and be like, hey, I'd love to support you. Let me know when you got stuff. I'd like to get some. And it's like, that's cool. There's somebody who wants to support you.
Yeah,
So like it's definitely a big step in like, getting your name out there a bit.
sure. And are there things that you do to figure out when new competition opportunities are coming up? Like, are there different resources that you follow, or is it kind of random?
I'm not really like a super headhunter for them. I know there's people that go crazy for them. Like they'll be on Twitter every day just spamming. As soon as the competition come up, they're on it. Me, I kind of just run into them occasionally. My friend Mo Moski, he'll like randomly be like, "Yo, this project has a event coming up, like or a competition. Like you should look into it." And then I'll look into it and I'll be like, "Oh, that's pretty sick. Let me give it a shot." But usually, I'm not like like hunting down on it too hard.
Right, kind of like your bigger theme of just leaning into when the creativity comes up or when the opportunity comes up,
Yeah, when it feels right.
do
When
it.
it feels right, you do
I
it.
like
If
that.
not, you know.
Keeps it fun, keeps it fresh. Yes. And so I hear you in like that a lot of your ideas, it seems like, come out of just like your chain of thought, your stream of consciousness, right? Then you have this other side, which is the competitions where there's a prompt that you're responding to, it seems like, and you're also open for commissions, right? So is it very different for you to be working on work that people have a vision for versus that's coming straight from you? If you would talk a little bit about that, that'd be cool.
Yeah, commissions, you can't live with them, you can't live without them. I Commissions are cool because, it's currency, it's cash flow. Everybody needs money to survive, but it's not as fun as you would think it's a lot of revisions, and you might have an idea, but the client is like, I'm not really, the best projects are the ones where they're like, hey, I want you to just do what you love doing, do what you're good at, just go ham. And I'll just, and I'm like, bet, but if it's something like kind of meticulous where it's like, I want this, but I don't want this. So can we go ahead and take that? I'm like, okay, all right. It's like, I don't know. It's really weird. It's like buying a car, but not wanting, a certain part in it. So now you gotta pull it out and replace it. It's just like, well, I built you a whole car. Just take the car.
Right. Oh my
a,
goodness.
a lot of it too. I've been watching Mad Men recently. A lot of it's like Mad Men. It's like if you don't like it, I'm sorry. Like, oh my goodness, I feel for them. I feel for them. I really do, because listen, I love the commission patrons, but some people who ask for commissions ask for some very bananas things, and it's like, that is not possible. I cannot do that, my friend. I'm so sorry.
Oh my gosh. Oh no. I think that's really insightful and helpful for anyone who's, not even a maker, but a consumer of art, right? Like I think there's a lot to be said for trusting an artist with what they do, and like how to be a good commissioner of work, right? Also matters. And so
Yeah,
I really appreciate that context, and I think it makes a lot of sense. But like you said, we do the things we gotta do.
gotta
Um,
eat.
so this I is very different than the other stuff also. Um, but I wanted to hear more. It seemed like from the caption you maybe did this at a point of like reset or like re-energizing for yourself. Um, Tell me more.
So going back into the idea of like art being like a relationship, it a lot of it is like when those times of burnout happens, usually artists saying like, hey, let's practice on another medium. So sometimes I'll go into 3D and take a break from what I'm usually doing, like digital or painting now. And this was a time where I was playing around with monster clay, which is like sculpting. And yeah, it was one of those periods where I had burnout and I had to go into a different medium because for some reason I just couldn't, art didn't want to. Art did not have that creativity to be drawing. So we ended up moving over to clay and I made that piece and it turned out really well.
That's so amazing. And I think that's so important to have that self-awareness of when the reset is needed, right? Like when the car is not starting or something's not clicking the way that you want it to. It's like, well, let's, try something different or go
Yeah.
ahead in some way. Have you returned to clay since then? Was this a one-off experience?
I'll be returning to clay at some point, but it kind of there's kind of like a ritual to set everything up, or like melting the clay down a bit. Because a monster clay, you have to like melt it. I put it in a crock pot and I melt it to the point where it's like a liquid, and then I wait till it's like a moldable chocolate almost, and then that's where I can like work with it. But it's usually kind of like there's time that goes into it. It's like
It seems like there's a big process and a lot of tools in comparison to just like the nice slick iPad with the stylus. Like with
yeah,
Stockpot, it's a whole different conversation,
sculpting tools and the little scrapers and
all this stuff. But to abstract from that, you talk about like needing a reset or like being able to listen to what your mind and your heart and whatever are like directing you toward in terms of your art and your making. Right now you're in a sort of different season though, right, with the gallery, and I'll stop sharing. So you have a show coming up, is that right? And you've been like painting and all that stuff. So
mhm.
um I'm curious about how you kind of stay authentic to your process in that, or how you get energy as you go, to avoid burnout while you're working toward a deadline. What has this new experience been like for you?
It's definitely been a really new experience, especially like going into something as big as this again with so little experience of painting, and like for things to be turned out so well for what they are. It's like it was a little, nerve wracking at first, but once I finished a couple pieces, I was like, okay, obviously, you know, something's clicking here, so I can calm down a little bit. I'm obviously in my element in some way. Um, but yeah, that's been going like really well, and I guess like to keep from burnout, Burnout did hit me once, but then I caught COVID, and that just like stopped me. I was able to take a break, and that was perfect. And then once I healed from that, I was able to just come right back. And for some reason, I was just ready to get back to work. And then, yeah, from there, it's just kind of it's been smooth sailing ever since that point. It was like during the halfway point too, and yeah, no, it's been kind of weird, but I think art is excited enough. The inner art in me is excited and ready to have this opportunity. So it's like we're not about to screw this up by by
But
getting burnt out now.
that's so beautiful too, though, how like the forced reset happens when it needs to, right? Like
Yeah,
it, that was such a blessing that that was when it happened. Like no one wants to have COVID, but it happened and you got to reset, and it sounds like it like made something click of like, I'm so excited to get back, right? It makes you miss the thing, and then you're ready to go right away
yeah,
from that moment. So it ends up being kind of a blessing in disguise. That was really cool.
yeah.
So anything that we haven't covered about this gallery thing that you want people to know about? So it's Wild Geese Gallery, right?
Mhm.
On the Upper West Side. That's where I first encountered your work. Became a super fan. But what else should people know about it, or anything else that you want to share?
Honestly, so I guess the time for it should be it'll be September 8th, Wild Geese Gallery, 473 Amsterdam Avenue. The time should be 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. I believe that's I'll post stuff as that goes. The same for the gallery, but yeah, and then I guess like what to kind of look forward for it. There's a lot of paintings. This is kind of like the genesis, like the early beginning series. There will be like NFTs coinciding with some of the paintings too for people who are interested in those. If not, that's cool too. Do not discriminate, you know. But there's gonna be like, things like that. We've got shirts and posters. I made this really cool poster too. It's like a movie, like 80s, like thriller type vibe. I think it turned out really cool.
Ah,
Um, yeah, there's honestly, it'll be really cool. It'll be really cool.
I'm so excited for it. It's going to go in my calendar right after we talk today to get to go there and celebrate the work, and see everyone who listens to this and goes there, hopefully too. So as we, continue to abstract back out to your work and your purpose in this and everything, I am curious from your perspective about, why it all matters. What keeps inspiring and motivating you to capture that inner youth?
Uh Honestly, it's just as life goes on, and as we get older, you kind of realize like, I am not that kid anymore. Physically, I'm not that kid anymore. I'm a big boy now. I'm a grown up. I'm a grown man. But mentally you can still have like that like creative aspect in your head. Like, you might not be able to do somersaults throughout the house like you used to when you was a kid, but mentally you can still bring these like ideas and creativeness to life. And realistically, like no matter how old you get, you always got to hold on to that bit, especially if you're like in art, whether you make movies or music or, film or dance or art, you got to have that inner kid, because that inner kid is the youthful spirit that wants to be ambitious and have these crazy dreams and make these wild projects. And, the inner adult in you is like, that's not possible. And then, the inner youth is like, hey, we're gonna make it happen somehow. And it's like, you know what? You gotta let the kid run free. You gotta
Yeah,
let the kid go.
gotta let the kid go. And I'm thinking, back to you were sharing about that experience in school, right? Where they wanted you to kind of take away what you knew in your craft and like put other ideas on you or other inhibitions. Like the metaphor of that maybe is like we all need to kind of like learn how to run from when we have to run from things, right? Like if things are going to hold us back or challenge, the uniqueness that we bring to this world, we got to be able to put the blinders on, right, and just do our thing sometimes.
Yeah.
And I feel like you have demonstrated that really well, and it's been really fruitful in your
Thank you.
practice. um any lessons that you've learned so far, or wisdom you would share with people who are trying to similarly maybe immerse themselves in this digital creative world, or be flexible with different mediums that they use to express themselves, or something completely unrelated like which Subway sandwich to order? Any wisdom is good.
Hmm. Wisdom. Wisdom. I would say Well, firstly, hold on to that inner youth. That's always the biggest one.
Mhm.
Um, Other bits will probably be, I guess, if you get an idea, firstly, write it down. Writing stuff down is such a great way to get stuff out the head. And if you like me, I'm a really big thinker. I'm constantly in my head. So, I carry around this little tiny pocketbook and I always write stuff down whenever it's in my head because, once an idea is out in the world, it's already one step closer to becoming a real thing. So write those ideas down and, jump on those creative ideas. If you have like a creative idea, sometimes you kind of just, they don't make sense, but realistically, once you take that jump on them, you either learn everything you have to from that experience or it ends up going really well. Like I know people who wanted to, start businesses or like, create these little projects or something like that. And they'd be like, oh no, well, I'm too scared to do it. But it's like if you would have just did it, who knows where you would have been at now because you already planted that seed and now you're working to, grow it even more. So it's just I guess if you get that idea, jump on it. If you want to start that channel or work on that big project that's going to take years, the sooner the better.
Yes, I think that's so encouraging and that I am going to take some of that to heart personally too. So thank you. And also like why not, right? I feel like, we always build up um these scenarios in our heads of why we can't do things. And then if you actually ask yourself point blank, like what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Oh yeah, there's not anything. Like a little bit of wasted time which wasn't actually wasted because I learned something or
Exactly.
whatever it may be. Finally, what do you want people to leave knowing about you and your work? And secondly, like, what are you really looking forward to right now? And that could be related to your work or related to a nice cold air conditioner session.
um. Hmm. Ah. One more time.
I
I'm
know
so sorry.
I will let me parse it out. So the first part, what do you want people to leave knowing about you and about your work?
That there's so much more coming. There's so much more in store. You gotta keep your eyes out on this one right here because there's always something. There's always something cooking in the pot. Every time you come over here, there's gonna be something to eat. Okay, there's always something to eat. You may not know what's in the pot, but I promise you it'll be good. Creme de la creme.
Oh my gosh. Even if it's clay in the crock pot, there's always something in the
It might be some clay in the crock pot, but hey, I'll tell you.
I love it. And no, I think it's so special to get to see your personality and how it complements your work. And people should absolutely be following along because there is so much more to come and to be excited about. And finally, what are you looking forward to right now? And I mean, other than all of that's to come.
you know, uh, aside from like, the show and just trying to figure out the NFT game and all the different mediums practicing in, honestly, just the future in general, I'm blessed. God got me to what, 23, I'm blessed and, I know he's got more in store for me. So honestly, just, you know, taking every blessing one day at a time and, man, going with it, going with it, going with it. My
Yeah.
mom always used to say a thing. She say, God didn't get you this far for no reason. You know what I mean? So there's a reason for everything, and I'm not complaining. I'm going with it. I'm taking it all the way.
Yes, that is what makes God proud, right? He does not throw us these gifts for no reason. So I think it's really special and wonderful, and setting a beautiful example for others that you are taking those gifts and letting yourself be out there and share them with the world and see what comes of it. It's been such an honor to get to know you, Kiffy. It means so much more to me, your work, even now that I know the person behind it. And I think a lot of people will feel the same way. So thank you so much. And I can't wait for more people to hear your story.
Thanks for having me.